think like teaching, like parenting, round table, anything there? No. Fishing. Dry explanation of what's gonna happen.
I could do a fishing one, okay? Because that's fresh on my mind, because I was successful this morning.
Go ahead.
Okay. So this is a little brief thing about catching fish, especially largemouth bass. We know that there are three elements that are most important when you're catching a largemouth bass, and you got to be in this mindset. You can't just approach the bank and think that I'll just throw it anywhere. You could just throw it anywhere, and maybe you'll catch a fish. Someone has said that a hungry fish will eat anything. You could throw almost anything at them, and they would get it. But real fishermen make fish bite. We're not waiting for a hungry fish. So how does that happen? One is location. Like where do you put your lure? And you're looking for structure, which is subterranean shelves, or you see some break in the water, some current, or something like that. And the second thing with location is so there's structure and there's cover. Any laydowns like lay down trees or weeds, something below the surface that obviously is going to be cover for fish. Fish don't like to be exposed, just like human beings don't. So location, you put it maybe beyond the cover, let it sink. So the second thing is presentation. Like once it hits, what is this lure actually doing below the water? What are you making it do below the water? How is it moving? And if there's weeds or structure there, then you want to, of course, you're going to rig your lure weedless, and then you're going to move it through the weeds. And typically, a bass is going to hit this lure not when it's running, but when it's falling, when it's dropping. So with that in mind, then you don't want to just move it constantly, or you're going to be catching pickerel or other type of carnivores that chase live things. But bass will hit a bait as it's moving down or it's stopped its motion. So presentation is second, that your presentation is stop and go, that you're imagining where it would be. If you're in the weeds and you hit a spot where it becomes no resistance, like you're out of the weeds, let it fall and imagine it falling until it doesn't fall anymore, then move it a little bit, etc. So location, presentation, and then lure selection is the third thing. And you of course you want to choose the size of the forage. Whatever they're eating is what you want to choose, about the same size. But it's not always the case. And the big four, as far as I'm concerned, with catching bass. You're on the surface with a buzzbait. Buzzbait's the most protective, most productive surface lure that's out there. It's virtually branchless and weedless also as it goes, because the hook is pointing up. So buzzbait, spinnerbaits are amazing. Let them fall. Even you can fish it like a jig. Let them fall. Rip them through weeds, and don't worry about it. Just throw it right into the branches, because they flatten out and you can pull them over. So buzzbaits, spinnerbaits, crankbaits, lipless crankbaits, especially rattle traps, are amazing. Or the Rapala Shad Rap crankbait is also awesome. Lipless, so you can just bring it back really fast. You can bounce it off the bottom, or you can crank, let it drop, crank, let it drop, crank, let it drop, etc. And then the last thing, of course, is soft baits. Wacky rigged Senkos with a little wacky ribbed weedless hook is perfect. Let it sink. Both of those wings kind of float down. It's really, really effective. And then swim baits have been my go-to. A lot of people like lizards and creature baits and other things, but the Yum soft 3.5 or 5-inch swim baits are just amazing. Their tail is really wide. The paddle is really, really wide. You use it with a 1/8 inch or 1/4 ounce hook, 4/0 hook for the 5-inch, and a 3/0 hook for the 3.5 inch. And those are just great, completely weedless, lots of different colors and options. And put those things together. So location, presentation, and bait selection, and you should be good to go. You'll be hooking lunkers in no time. That's my advice.
Wow. Wow, that was fresh.
That was fresh.
Careful.